Hello, I'm John Lee, and today we are with Alex Wheatley, a very valued member and investor of our community. And thanks for meeting with us today, Alex. I just have a couple of questions. I guess we'll just start with who are you and what kind of real estate investor are you?
Okay, I've lived in the St. Louis area for about 30 years. And over the last 35 years, I've invested in single family homes. And what prompted me was one of a market downturn, and you could actually buy houses at a discount. I was buying houses from HUD in another market, and kept those and made a profit, and moved here and started with single family houses. And I tend to invest on the long term. And one thing I will say is that with single family houses and almost every real estate investment, I've never lost money.
Well, that's great. Right there is a key. Yeah, probably because you did, you got a little bit educated up front. I would kind of guess on some of that, and went into it with a better mind frame.
And I felt like waiting for the right time was important. I mean, I know it's tough for people who want to get in right away, but if you get in right away and you stay there long enough, meaning a couple, 3 years, you're going to make some money. It's not like you're going to jump in and right now and make big money on flipping houses or like a hot stock or something like that. So,
well, well, I guess why do you continue to stay as in the investment arena here, Alex?
yeah.
What's your motivation to continue?
I enjoy it. I've enjoyed it from the money standpoint. And I've also, on long-term investments, I have rental properties that if you take your time and screen properly and get the right tenant, it'll help you stay in that particular area of the industry. So I do that, and I've used screening companies to do the initial interviewing and finding the right people. I've actually rejected quite a few applicants that people wanted me to sign, and I've made several people upset, but I felt like it wasn't a good fit. And for that reason, I stayed with that screening company, but we found the right person or persons for multiple properties. And after I started doing that, I did away with all the tenant woes and all the gripes that you have with tenants that a long-term rental investment person like myself usually have a problem with, and I don't. So I've got tenants that have been with me for 5 and 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So it sounds like the people you work with, the relationships is so important as far as getting the right people on your team, like the screeners. And then you have developed, it sounds like also over the years, who to look for, who you want, who you don't want. Who you don't want, I think is as important.
Right.
It sounds like. Well, let's talk about a little bit just about, let me ask you if you don't mind, about a couple of your deals. What do you think the very best real estate deal is that you ever did, Alex?
Well, like I mentioned before, I tend to buy when there's blood in the streets. So, which is not what's going on now. I mean, I can see an opportunity for someone to go in now and buy property and do minor cosmetics and either rent it or flip it. So, like I said, I buy when there's blood in the streets and where properties are down 30 and 40% from their historic highs, or even more so. And I also buy properties that when you walk in, they stink.
They smell like money sometimes, don't they?
Right, right. That's the usual reaction that an investor should have. Smells like money. And I had a couple properties I bought where I ran out to the house and got a mask, or ran out to the car and got a mask
Oh my. Yeah.
because I was afraid of air pollutants. And
Oh yeah.
so, I mean, the opportunities are still out there. I see a few of them. I'm not doing them right now.
Mhm.
And I think it's mainly because I've reached a point where I'm trying to consolidate, and,
Mhm.
I'm 74 years old and
Mhm.
want to make it easier for my family.
Sure. I think we learn those things every year. We learn a little bit more. I know I've changed my same way I look at things too. Same way it sounds like you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So, I mean, I have bought mainly from HUD and REOs. The REOs are harder to find. I've read, I don't know from firsthand experience, but I understand that banks now, that when they do have a repossessed property, they have their own rehab companies,
mhm.
or they have contracts with people that rehab them enough to get them back on the market to where they don't take as big a hit.
Mhm. So
And
the REO is, just for a little clarification, that's the real estate owned by maybe in a foreclosure or repossession,
right,
something like
right,
that. And
right.
that's a great strategy you've had right there. And
Yeah,
what you're saying then is that's tightened up a little bit, and they kind of have sounds like some insiders maybe that
right,
they're working with to
right,
maybe maximize their profits or maybe not lose as much, is what it
right,
sounds like.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, I've noticed things are, with the way the market is, like you're talking about, being a little bit, well, it's I think it might maybe at a turning point. I don't know, but a lot of things right now, you have to look a lot harder to find bargains.
right,
And are they really bargains compared to what they were a few years ago?
right, right,
But from what you're saying on the historic highs, I think that's a great way and a great thing for people to know what you're saying here, Alex.
right.
Yeah, that's
I know I get emails daily from a couple of companies that say that they're selling wholesale properties,
mhm,
and you look at the ARVs that they put, and they're really not discounted
mhm,
enough to go in for for somebody quick. And nowadays, if somebody's going into the market, they're probably okay for long term
mhm.
and for rental income. But personally, I don't see where there's enough money there or profit to do a flip. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing the same thing. I'm on everybody's list, and some of the things I see are double what they were just even 10, 11 years ago, as far as
yeah,
they're considering the ARV, the after repair value, and for what you put into it, and what you'll get on your cash flow basis on, a monthly basis. Some of them, to me, doesn't make sense.
right, right.
And I know rents are going up, things are changing. And actually, that's the thing about real estate. It's constant change, in market, and you
Right.
just have to be aware. And I know the longer you pay attention, a lot of, as long as you pay attention to what's going on, you can usually make adjustments. But I think that's a very valuable thing you said right there, that you're not necessarily looking for some of these so-called bargains right now that other people are looking at. So I think that's
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
As far as the deals go, though, do you have anything that you consider maybe your worst deal, Alex? Something that you really wish you would not have done that you'd like to share with us?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I've never lost money in a real estate deal. And I've also done not just real property, but I've bought uh, tax foreclosures properties. And with some guidance from you, you can go to counties and look for properties that you can buy for just back taxes. And those are pretty good if you handle the annual fees and your daily or your monthly fees, and they're probably pretty good for quick return. But I can't recall, honestly, for me personally, having a bad deal on any real estate deal, any real estate purchase, both as an investment and personal for my own residences. So I guess I've been very fortunate, but I also try to look at the whole picture all the time. So I guess I'm pretty conservative when it comes to real estate investing.
Well, that's a great point right there, because it sounds, you're a little bit more knowledgeable and think about things a little bit more, I think, than a lot of people. New people get into a lot of, they want to come in as a real estate investor, and a lot of them don't really have a plan.
Right.
You're more of the type of person that has a plan. I think people really need to pay attention to that, to have something in mind, your strategy and what you're going to do. And we've talked about this before a little bit, but having an exit strategy when you get into something, if because a lot of people, I know, they see quick money, especially today. They see, oh, they're making all this money flipping these houses. And of course, we got TV shows and everything that make it look all real easy and fun and glamorous. And everybody wants to get the hammer and whack the wall and then make 100,000, but it doesn't really work that way necessarily. But the long term, I think, is what's really important, what you said, because it's not really a get rich quick thing, but in the long term, it can really make a difference, in how you live your life, and you have time to spend with doing what you want and with the family and those you love, and maybe, and not spending time necessarily what you don't want to do. So I just think that's important for people to know. Yeah. Well, one thing I would like to ask is, a lot of people always ask, if you were, want to know, if you were to start over with your real estate investing today, Alex, what would you maybe do differently now that you know a little bit more?
When I first started, I was, I guess I was very fortunate. I did buy during a crash, but I was pretty much on my own. I had a real estate agent who I'd met that directed me in a couple of areas, but I feel now that it's important to belong to a group like the St. Louis Real Estate Investors Association, that you can bounce things off people and ideas and hear different points of view, that I didn't have that when I started. For somebody who is starting, and it's part of a bigger commitment for somebody to belong to something like that, and that kind of group, an experienced group, and be able to handle that and make decisions. But I think it's important to do it hand in hand.
That's a great point, because I think we do learn a lot from others, just like what you're saying, and groups, networking with some local people. I mean, it's always good to learn, what people are doing nationally and internationally, but I think locally, like you're saying, you do get to see kind of the ins and outs of what's going on, and see, learning from other people's mistakes too is huge. I mean, we obviously we want to learn from our own, but if you can cut, shorten the curve a little bit, and maybe not make quite as many, I think that puts you years ahead a lot of times. Yeah.
Probably the biggest mistake I've made as far as long-term rentals is after the rehab is, I mean, you're tired of spending money on the rehab and getting it fixed to where all the inspectors will approve it for occupancy. And a lot of people, I think, are too anxious to fill it and start getting monthly cash flow. And if you don't find the right tenant and sign them to a 1-year lease, you're looking at potential additional loss of income and investment. So if you don't get the right tenant in a property, say they do stay for a year, but it's going to take a month to get it back on the market or longer. And so you're out 2 months rent right there, right up front. Rarely do I see people find tenants to where it's a month or less between contracts. So you don't, when you're finding tenants for newly rehabbed properties on long-term rentals, I know the biggest mistake I did was doing it, screening tenants myself, because I had no experience doing that, and filling it too quickly and end up being a loss. Trashing the property, moving out without notice, creating code violations, and
so yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that, because I think sometimes no tenant is better than a bad tenant, because you do have repairs. And yeah, if you got to deal with the city, you don't want to have your house be marked from the with as far as code violations and all that, because once they kind of notice who you are, they a lot of times look for other things.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and it could cost you a lot. I know I personally had some properties that cost me way more to fix it back up from a short-term tenant that wasn't probably screened as good as I, could have had done. So that's, I think right there, people should really take note of that. That's a valuable nugget right there in itself. That can save you so much heartache. And, one tenant can make up for one bad tenant can make up for 9 good ones. And so that's the ones that'll take all your time, energy, and money. So that's a huge point right there. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all this, Alex.
Sure.
Is there anything else you'd like to say today?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to pass on some information. And I don't know how available I would be for any follow-up from any viewers you might have. So,
well, that's great, Alex. I appreciate that. We're with Alex Wheatley, master investor in the St. Louis area. It's so full of knowledge. If anybody would want to ask you a question or want any more information, or is there any kind of contact information you would like to leave for us, Alex?
Sure. My email address is AL and then my last name, Wheatley, at yahoo.com.
Yahoo. Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. And I appreciate your time today. Been very valuable, and I'm glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
Bye.